First off, I'd like to appreciate Tomiwa and the entire TechCabal team and Parity for putting together this conference. It's a real honor to have been asked to deliver this keynote. I'm also particularly excited about this conference. So yeah, my name is Kola. I'm the managing partner at Ventures Platform. I lead a team of amazing people that are focused on building the future of Africa. At Ventures Platform, we basically do three things. One, we provide early stage capital to startups. We provide infrastructure, and we focus on building pipeline through our nonprofit. Our thesis at Ventures Platform, over the last several months and weeks, we've spent some time just rethinking our thesis. And our thesis today is really about investing early in mission-driven founders that are building highly capital-efficient platforms that democratize prosperity, plug infrastructural gaps, connect underrepresented communities, create efficiencies, solve for non-consumption, and in doing all of this, improve livelihoods across the continent. And so, we strongly believe that in Africa, it is critical to take a long-term view. And there are a few reasons, why this is important. So on the one hand, Africa has one of the fastest growing populations across the world. This is cliche already, but this population is not only fast growing, it's also largely youthful. And there are several challenges. And so when you have this mix of a large population that's youthful with challenges, it truly starts to beg the question of how you can start to see these challenges as opportunities. And so at Ventures Platform, we tend to take a long-term view, and we believe this long-term view is critical if you would invest in the continent. But that's all fine and good, but then we get hit by what you can very well call a black swan. No one really anticipated the scale of this pandemic. In January and in December, when it was ravaging China, and the city of Wuhan, it felt like such a distant situation, and so it's sort of caught everyone off guard. And yes, there was some sort of scientific evidence to the fact that something of this magnitude could happen, but it wasn't quite mainstream. And so, the consequence of that is very obvious. We're all going through it. So we're seeing a significant dip in the availability of capital and constraints of cash flow for companies. We're seeing this even across our portfolio. Consumer spending has significantly reduced. Some of our companies are recording dips in revenue as much as 60 or 80%. And this is not just Nigeria, this is across the world. We're also seeing a breakdown of supply chains and disruptions of different economic, processes. The one that's probably been the most glaring is the overdependence on China that has now sort of become caused a point of failure globally. On the economic side, there's as much as for Africa. If you look at Africa, broadly speaking, there's a forecast that economic growth, GDP growth, might slow by as much as 2%, in 2020 and 2021. And this was on the back of certain countries like Nigeria starting to sort of see benefits of economic reform. And worst off, companies are having to lay off and reduce costs, and we're seeing this across the tech ecosystem in the continent. So the real question is, why should we be bullish? Are we nuts? Why should we be bullish on Africa? Isn't this time to scamper and hide? Well, I like to think that it's about perspective. So you can either choose to see the cup half full or half empty. This is really the perspective that you must have. So, the challenges we see, and particularly this moment, presents an opportunity to take a different perspective and see the cup of the African opportunity as being half full, with the other half being the opportunity that we all must look to leverage. Moreover, the only way you get out of the rut or rot is by building. One of my favorite shows is a show that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, The Men Who Built America. If you track back to the 19th and 20th century, folks like Vanderbilt, JP Morgan, really were the entrepreneurs that built sort of the fabric of what today has, we all now recognize as one of the most vibrant economies across the world. It wasn't necessarily government; it was entrepreneurs that built prosperity that we see today in America. And so, I am of the view, and at Ventures Platform, we like to say the future of Africa will be built by entrepreneurs, not governments and not grants. And so, by all means, we must be bullish about supporting this class of innovators and entrepreneurs that we desperately need in Africa today. Now, there's a whole nother conversation about the role of government and how far entrepreneurs can go without government. But we're not going to have that conversation today. But I am very confident that Africa will be built by entrepreneurs. Now, why am I so bullish? Well, there are a few factors, and some of these factors have even been sort of accelerated by the pandemic and the second and third other effects. So first off, we're seeing behavioral changes that support digital startups. People are more open to, people have to sort of work remotely, people have to learn remotely. We're seeing an acceleration in the reduction of customer education. You no longer have to convince people to order stuff on through e-commerce. You no longer have to convince parents to use digital platforms for learning with their kids at home. We're seeing a number of our startups see people more willing to pay online for goods and services. We also have a really youthful population that lends itself really well to digital adoption. The telcos are reporting massive explosion in data consumption and the like. User adoption as a whole is getting a boost. But I think one of the more exciting things for me is this pandemic really presents an opportunity for a rallying point, because the cracks and gaps we have across Africa have never been so obvious. Everybody now knows that we must invest in edtech. Everybody now sees that, we must invest in digital healthcare. We must invest in Africa's own biotech industry. I was super excited to see 54Gene, for instance, announce their Series A, a few weeks after the lockdown started. It's dead obvious. So stuff that seemed un-African or seemed very remote now seem really obvious, and it creates an opportunity for governments, policymakers, financiers to come together and rally together to build the future of the continent that we require. But most of all, with job losses even come a fresh supply of talent, and we're able to test out our digital workforce. We now know across our companies, we're seeing, an increased ability of our teams to collaborate even remotely. And so all of this really begs, the question that, look, this is an opportunity to galvanize folks that will build the future of the continent. And so again, we believe that our thesis really holds water, and we're super excited to continue to engage as we move forward. Now, yes, we are bullish. But where are we bullish? In what areas, what themes are we super excited about? And what themes do we all need to sort of double down on as a continent? There are a few areas. First off, we think that this is an opportunity for entrepreneurs and innovators and financiers to build goods and services around non-consumption, figuring out ways to provide goods and services to sections of our populations that ordinarily would not be able to consume those goods and services. One of my favorite books is The Prosperity Paradox by Efosa Ajama. I think it really speaks to, the opportunity in time. It's also now obvious that, we need to innovate around providing critical infrastructure. And so whether it's figuring out better ways to provide connectivity at the last mile at cheap, for lower costs. But I also think, this pandemic presents an opportunity for missional companies that, are built around an objective that helps people live better lives, even in these very difficult times. So companies like LifeBank that are, transforming how people get access to critical medical supplies. Companies, like MDAS that are building testing centers. Those companies are going to find, are going to be critical and needed in this time. And then moonshots, traditionally, if you talk to venture firms across Africa, we don't tend to want to do moonshots. But clearly, Africa needs more than ever moonshot solutions that would, accelerate our ability to educate the next 1 billion, solutions that would drastically cut the cost of connectivity. There's also opportunities around wind of necessity, as we call it. So things that, might have not been so critical, before now, but when you consider the fact that this virus we may not have a cure for this virus for a year or a year and a half, a couple of things now become very necessary, because behaviors will change. And while these behavioral changes may not be permanent, we expect certain portions of the population to adopt new ways of doing things going forward. I think the most exciting for me is, sort of innovating around how we can create more prosperity and opportunity, whether it's opportunity for work, opportunity to participate in the global economy for larger portions of our African population. And so these are themes that we're super excited about. Now, across our portfolio, there are companies, doing things in this area. So yesterday we announced an investment in Tamboa Health, super excited about what they're building, around using sound to do lung imaging. I mean, those are the kinds of moonshots that Africa desperately needs today. Or companies like Trove that are helping, millennials across the continent invest in global securities, so that they can balance the effects of currency depreciation and things that, are probably likely to accelerate as this crisis continues to fester. Now, what do these companies have in common? And, for the entrepreneurs on the call today, what are the sort of characteristics that the companies you build need to have? So first off, we need to avoid the urge of building around short-term trends and seasonal, seasonal factors or seasonal parameters. So I believe firmly that not everything that is happening now would last post the pandemic. And so it's really important that you're analyzing critically and you're thinking long-term, yes, but, implementing short term and striking that balance and ensuring that you're not building your entire business model around a seasonal factor is really critical. Painkillers, not vitamins. Africa needs real solutions, not fanciful apps and fanciful businesses. And so it's really about targeting painkillers, especially as the share of wallet of the average African continues to shrink. Economic decisions are going to be under an increased amount of scrutiny. I think capital efficiency is also something to bear in mind, right? Especially because access to capital continues to shrink, as we move forward. And so, you have to focus on the balance between growth and profitability has to be really looked at very critically. And fourth is the risk of currency, devaluation. So companies that have inherently baked into their business model or their funding mix mechanisms to manage for what is likely to happen with currencies in countries like Nigeria and other parts of North Africa seeing some level of depreciation. And you can find this across the financial services, insurance tech, life sciences, health tech, EdTech, particularly talent accelerators, and AgTech and several other sectors where we at Ventures Platform are actively in. Just so what is possible? We've spent the last 9 or so minutes talking about, the areas where we are bullish. What is possible? And has this been done before? Now, across the world, thankfully, we have examples, companies like MailChimp, like Microsoft, like Square, and even Andela were built during downturns. And so it is possible. Downturns actually create opportunities to birth new companies. And so, what, I think, we have no choice but to remain bullish. And, I'm super excited to say at Ventures Platform, we are bullish about Africa. Thanks for listening. I'll be happy to take any questions at the moment. Thank you very much. Oh yes, Bitcoin as well is I think that falls under the financial services category as well. Oh, so we can't take questions now. All right, great, fantastic. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you all found that really useful. The link to the slides were shared in the chat group. I will just share it again if you don't have it. And we'll catch you all at the fireside chat. Thank you very much.